What did you learn from your first girlfriend/boyfriend? Getting into a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship is the worst reason to be in a relationship. Likewise, liking someone because they like you is the worst reason to like someone. You want to date a person, not their company. I know someone who is engaged to her boyfriend because of their parents. While it's sweet and maybe they are happy, the fact that the main reason they're engaged is because their parents see it as best is a red flag for me. As much as I want her to be happy, I don't think it's gonna last. Yeah, a hard lesson I needed to learn and stop doing. It's so easy to want to be loved by someone and just kind of force yourself to forget the obvious reasons why you should break up. I'll give 2 lessons. 1, that feelings will fade away, and what takes a relationship to be strong and healthy is everyday conscious commitment to love one another. We've been together for almost 8 years and have crossed various stages in our lives, since high school, college, and we're still together as she studies for med school and I pursue my career as an accountant. We wouldn't last this long if it's just due to being excited for each other, which we actually still are. But it's because of always making time for each other and being committed to support each other, no matter how busy we are, while still giving enough space. 2, consistent small things are far more valuable than big monthsary or anniversary efforts. We get so busy and stressed by our own individual career paths, but we always find a way to squeeze in our love, either through a sweet long message or even just a simple cup of coffee and staying up late. Love is consistency in small efforts, not by giving grand things that are done just once in a blue moon. That you should never take any relationship for granted. You always need to make efforts and work towards keeping a happy relationship with the ones you love. Didn't do it back then, at least after some years, but at least it taught me how to do it for future relationships, so I guess that's nice. I also learned that being in a happy relationship means that you, as well as your partner, need to make compromises from time to time, because nobody is always on the same page with everything. But in the end of the day, if you want to be a team, you need to make it work. Once somebody is not willing to do that, the relationship is going down the drain. A long list of what not to put up with. The best apology is changed behavior. How to stand up for myself. That I should stand up for myself. That you can't change someone who doesn't want to change themselves. Don't ignore the red flags. That when everyone around you is saying that you guys are just the perfect couple, and despite no real relationship problems, something in your gut is telling you something is wrong, you should listen to that gut feeling. That relationship ended 17 years ago, and I'm still dealing with all the fallout. Sometimes the way people behave in relationships have nothing to do with you, or me in this sense. I dated a girl who went from guy to guy, and I realized that I was a small bump on a road to her. Finding out who she is and dealing with the things she needs to grow up and be a beautiful person. I've done the same to women. I hope this makes sense. In high school, I thought I found the one, love of my life. So we started having problems. I tried too hard to save that sinking ship. Life is a series of relationships. If you are lucky, you find someone to stick around for a long time. You meet new people, grow as a person, and some people go in and out of your life. She dumped me for not being more aggressive about pursuing sex. When we first got into a relationship, she explicitly said she didn't want to have sex for 1 year. I learned that. That is fine with me. I didn't want to be more aggressive about pursuing sex, nor do I want to be more aggressive now. I wonder if perhaps she imposed that condition to make herself feel like she was in a position of power, and when you didn't give her repeated opportunities to exercise that power, she didn't see any point in the relationship. Being cheated on can be funny, as well as hurtful. A friend of mine learned to play my girlfriend's favorite song on his guitar, Kiss Me by Sixpence and None the Richer. Allegedly, at the end of the song, he looked into her eyes and said, "Well, kiss me." She subsequently kissed and shagged him. That was the most cringe shit I'd ever heard, even at the tender age of 16. That definitely softened the blow. Lust is very easy to confuse with love. My first girlfriend was not a bad person by any means, but looking back, we were insanely incompatible and had little in common besides a sense of humor. But at the time, 16, I thought I had found the girl I was going to marry someday. Was devastated when we broke up, even though I was the one that did it. But 3 weeks later, I was right as rain. Sex is a powerful motivating force, especially when you stop getting it. First serious relationship was not good and needed to end, but it was a slow death of on again, off again, because we were stupid and horny. That you don't hate your ex. I hate this narrative that social media creates. We're not friends, but I'd say hi if I ever saw him in the streets, and I like to hear that he's doing well. No hard feelings, you know? It was good while it lasted. This is a very important message. I've never felt comfortable with the narrative you need to hate someone who you shared your life with. If there is a reason to hate them, I understand. However, otherwise, no need to have that kind of negativity for someone who you care deeply for. I agree. What I wasn't really prepared for was that contact seems to end quite abruptly when either party moves on. I guess nobody wants their partner's ex in their life, so, in my experience, it's usually the complete end of that relationship. I learned not to let someone threaten me with their own mental health / decisions again. None of that "I'm going to kill myself if you leave me" or "I'm going to cut myself" BS. I absolutely like being a rock for someone with mental illnesses, but as soon as someone involves threats and don't actually make any attempts to improve, therapy, coping methods, etc., then I'm done tolerating them, because I'm not going to allow someone to treat me like that. This can also be more subtle than "I'm going to kill myself," which makes it harder to spot. My ex would push me to move with her away from friends and family, make no effort to find a job, and insist that I had to help her get one, etc. If I didn't do all these things, "You don't love me, somebody else will be willing to do these things for me," said it in a more subtle way. Once the relationship ended, I realized just how much effort and emotional energy I spent trying to appease her own mental health issues, while my own life remained stagnant. You're never 100% compatible with the other person. You just have to find out if you can live with that 5% incompatibility. And if you don't think you can, you need to leave ASAP. Don't wait several years, hoping things will be different or that you will change your mind. I once heard something like, your partner can only give you 80% of what you need. So when people cheat, they usually cheat with someone that delivers the missing 20%. They think they're getting the 100% and fuck everything over. I'm gonna type in caps because I indicate how to bold it in my phone. Never stop being yourself. And I mean, not in a physical sense. When you admire someone, you start somehow becoming like them, adapting their interests and hobbies, so you feel more connected to them, etc. But don't let it change you completely, because 1, you'll be completely someone else after some time in their relationship, and not the person who they fell in love with. 2, you won't know what to do after it ends. You'll just forget what you used to do to have fun, and it kinda sucks, big time. A few things. 1, you can love someone, but not want to make lifelong commitment to them. 2, you absolutely have to be on the same page as far as life goals goes. 3, you can remain friends with a person even if a relationship doesn't work out. I'm still good friends with my high school / college boyfriend 30 years later, even though our relationship didn't work out. He's smart, funny, and a great guy, but he wasn't the guy for me. He could never get his shit together back in the day and still hasn't. Not a go-getter, not ambitious, no real life plan. I was looking for a partner in my goals, not someone to bring along for the ride. It's also important to know that they can remain friends, but some people can't. I had a friend who was in a toxic relationship, and after they broke up, they were still going to be friends, until the other person was still acting like they were dating and trying to be controlling and manipulative. If he punches you once, he's probably going to escalate that behavior. Luckily for me, when he punched me, he did it in front of my best friend, who then proceeded to kick the crap out of him. He never punched or otherwise physically hurt me again. But as I live in a small town and everyone knows everyone else, I've heard through people who still know him that he has been divorced 3 times because he keeps beating up his wives. A person who hits other people probably won't ever change. If you're in a relationship where your significant other hits you, please reach out to whatever resources are available to help you get out now. You won't get better, and you don't deserve it. The National Domestic Violence Hotline in the US is 1-800-799-7233. That people aren't thinking as negatively about you as you fear they are. I was and still am a pretty anxious person, and my first boyfriend was so patient, kind, and open with me. It really taught me that not everything is about me and how to focus on someone else without inserting your own insecurities. Very true. We assume others think about us as much as we do, but generally, you can assume someone thinks about you just as much as you do them. They think about themselves as much as you think about yourself. No matter how perfect you think things are going, she says she's happy and likes you, you're happy and you really like her, she can ghost you and you'll be left not knowing what you did wrong. Listen to their friends. His friends always ask me what I saw in him and why I was with him, that I could do better. His own friend said this. I was so blinded, so every time anyone would ask me, I'd say I thought he was the best, and I felt like I was the lucky one. He dumped me, and after being so heartbroken, I didn't think I could go on. The cloud finally lifted, and I saw everything they said about him was true. He was a terrible person. Never invest the entirety of your identity in another person. I had bought into this BS Disney princess type of way of treating her, and it cost me so much money, time, health, and career progress. I'm saying my life would be profoundly different without this relationship. Better first job out of college, I wouldn't be morbidly obese, etc. I'm not blaming these things on her, I'm blaming them on myself for the ridiculous way I worshipped her. I honestly don't want to get back into a relationship until I get my shit together, lose weight, progress my career, have a significant amount of money saved, have reliable hobbies I can do independent of her, have a solid support group of friends, etc. It might be 3+ years until I'm ready for it again, but it is what it is. I'm not going in unprepared again. Guys are like oranges, and relationships are like roller coasters. Direct quote from my first boyfriend, 14, when he dumped me. Still not sure where he was going with those. 3 things. Firstly, that immediate chemistry doesn't mean you'll last. E and I hit off immediately, but we really had nothing in common. Second, that splitting up doesn't need to be some massive drama or argument involving bad blood. E and I called it off. She dumped me while I was thinking about it and putting off dumping her. Completely civil. Third, that awful things happen to good people. E and I weren't a match, but after we split, I always wished her well. Then I saw her face 3 years later in the newspaper, and the news was bad. Teen critical after hit and run, not expected to make it. It would be many years later until I found out that she did make a miracle recovery. That really fucked me up, even though it took me a long time to understand it. Red flags on the first date won't go away, so better to save yourself trouble and leave instead of leaving a few months later for those same flags, no matter how desperate you are. I cheated on my first girlfriend. I regretted it thoroughly and have never done it since, nor will I do it again. I came to the conclusion that cheating on your partner does not make you unfaithful. It makes you dishonorable, and that's far worse. I have a very detailed idea in my mind about what it means to be an honorable person, and this is where that idea first took root. Good on you for learning that lesson early. I despise cheaters, but there are a few, like you, it seems, that can learn from their mistakes. Someone once asked me how I was so sure I would never cheat on anyone, and my response was, whenever I look into a mirror, I want to see someone that is deserving of being loved. I believe when you have cheated, anytime your significant other says they love you after that, that is a lie, because they don't know who you really are, and that would be, as you put, dishonorable. That no one is worth being constantly ordered around and degraded. It taught me I shouldn't put up with being treated poorly, or having my phone searched constantly. Now I never have to walk on eggshells again. Sometimes, you can fall in love with the very first person you date. I was a real dreamboat, and was like, nope, this is just puppy love, because he's my first and I don't know what actual love is yet. Fast forward 6 years after we'd gone on to date other people for a while. We ended up hanging out again, and the connection was still there. I'm so in love with him, and I realized that I fell in love with him that first time we dated. Everyone after was just kind of substandard, by comparison. Most of them genuinely sweet guys, not their fault. Anyways, I don't regret our time apart, as we both had a lot of growing and maturing to do. I'm just so glad we ended up back together. We are married now and are expecting our first child to be delivered by an induction tomorrow. He's my best friend. The first girl I called my girlfriend, 5th grade. I learned that holding hands makes your palms real sweaty. Turns out body heat is a real thing. First serious girlfriend, I learned that women really want sex too. In that relationship, it was the opposite of the stereotypical jock and cheerleader, where the jock is pressuring the girl to do more. I wasn't ready or comfortable, and she was very pushy. TLDR, body heat exists, and women can be vicious. I was a simp in high school, and always wanted a GF. Thought that I would worship my GF if I ever got one. Once I got into a real relationship in college, I learned a lot about what I like, such as my autonomy, and spending time with family, friends, and myself. I learned not to live in my fantasies and learned to appreciate the real people in my life, including myself. I learned not to put every girl on a pedestal. This relationship taught me stuff about myself. I'm currently still in it, 5 years strong. Your happiness isn't their responsibility. If you can't be happy with yourself, you aren't going to magically be happy just because you are with them. They may distract you from your unhappiness or mask it for a time. However, it will eventually go downhill if you are relying on them to keep you happy. How foolish tests are. 2 weeks after starting to date, she tells me she's having second thoughts because she read a book where a girl and a boy go to college in different places, and she wasn't sure we could stick it out. She was seeking reassurance and testing my commitment. I heard that, thought she was uncertain, and agreed to stop dating. I was unhappy for a few weeks, but got over it. It was after 6 months, my dating someone else, and her conspicuously dating someone else and telling me she made out with them, to realize she wasn't over me, and she'd been testing me. I learned to look for and walk away from people who created uncertainty in order to test me, and to highly value people who could tell me directly what they want. My first girlfriend had, at the time, undiagnosed panic disorder and borderline personality. I learned from her that sometimes it's okay to give up on people to protect yourself, because some mental health issues need to be addressed by professionals, not by your significant others. Sometimes people fall in love and have great time together, but after a while, they may also fall out of love and become distant. Also, long-distance relationships can only work if both people put in effort. Grass is only green if it's being watered by both people in a relationship. You can try as hard as you might, but it takes compromise, and each person actively trying to keep a healthy relationship going. Communication. If you're the type who bottles their feelings up like I am, it becomes a problem. I had to learn to have enough trust and respect for my partners and our relationship to talk any issues through. Having the mindset of us versus the problem instead of me versus you and the problem was very helpful. Relationships are a two-way street. My first girlfriend and me were together for 2 years, and I cared about her a lot. I tried really hard to make it work, but at the end of the day, she just wouldn't talk to me about whatever problems we had. She was really sad for the last 6 months of our relationship every time I saw her before she saw me, and she looked miserable. I tried to talk to her and ask her what was going on, support her, just communicate, and I even tried just giving her some space. In the end, she left me at the hardest point of my life. It takes people with open communication to have successful relationships. There's a lot of compromise and trying new things. Honesty is always the best policy. Unless she asks if she looks fat, then just say no, but I think that one would look way better on you. That boyfriend/girlfriend is just a label and changes nothing unless you make it. Same with my husband today. Getting married changes nothing about the relationship. It's just a different label. Just because they treat you right doesn't mean that they are the one. Treating you with respect should be expected and not a sign that they are perfect for you. I have never been in a bad relationship, but we still broke up because we released that we weren't right for each other, despite the healthy relationship we have. My ex and I are still friends and happily dating other people. That when you don't see the relationship lasting any longer, you need to end it. My first boyfriend and I were together for almost 5 years and got used to having each other around. He got pretty controlling towards the end, and admittedly, I didn't make things easy for him either. For the last year and a half, all we did was fight, and I regret not ending it sooner. If he or she has unresolved emotional issues, it will take a toll on them. and that will impact the relationship. Sometimes it is a minor issue and you can adjust, but when someone isn't healthy, they can't do a healthy relationship. I dated a really great guy in high school, but oh wow, mother issues. Whenever he was interested, happy, excited about something, job, hobby, college, she would cut him down with passive-aggressive or flat-out aggressive comments or behavior. It threw him into a tailspin and effed him up. She was a next-level emotional assassin, toxic and manipulative, probably a narcissist. His best friend and I both really tried to encourage him to look into therapy, support, etc. My family life was pretty rough, so I had some experience, but he never did. Unresolved issues or trauma can keep one from being in a happy or healthy relationship.